Okay, this is a story about a TV stand that turned into a bench. There we go. The TV I got in a raffle. It was a big ass plasma TV. It was the old staff TV, 2 inches thick, 64 inches by 37 inches. So it's this taller. It was longer than me, 3 feet tall, and it weighed like 180 pounds. And the reason it's no longer a TV stand is, well, I had to take it apart. It stopped working. There's like a ton of aluminum. Did you know? That's why it was 2 inches thick. It was mostly aluminum. Had all these PC boards, like a ton of PC boards. And then weird rubber bumpers that were all sticky and stuff.
What the fuck?
But yeah, it stopped working after first things. I beat it with a metal ruler. It worked after that, but then it stopped working not that long after. And the reason I beat it with a ruler is because I thought I was being listened to and watched through the TV. I was definitely being controlled through the Xbox One that was connected to it, and somebody had hacked my Wi-Fi. But I felt like they could see me or hear me through the TV. Let's say well, I'm gonna be honest, this is a real simple build. It's a rectangular prison. So I'm mostly gonna talk about other shit. It's made with a bed frame and some rectangular tube I got, just some scrap metal. And it's the bed frame's angle iron. So it's like just angle set on the tube to frame it up. Well, to support it. You'll see. I was gonna go back to the being watched shit. There's actually one weird night where, see, what had happened was people started like coming to my house, and at first I was like, oh, it's probably those dance videos because they know my backyard. But then it became more fucking creepy as more and more people started showing up. And this is where I fucked up. I had an Instagram with poetry, and in the poetry, for one, I had all this poetry about this girl from work because I fell for her, and I gave her a poem. I think it was like a year and a half or maybe more ago, and in the poem, I just told her I love you, essentially. But it wasn't like I love you, I want to be with you. It was like I love you. I think you're like a great person. I like your personality. I thought that's what it was. Apparently it was deeper than, I don't know. I thought she talked to me about it, but she didn't. She went to my bosses. So ever since that poem, I didn't stop writing poetry. And I had like a ton of poems about her, and after like there was another, things got weird between us, and then I went to talk to her about it, and I said the wrong thing, and she freaked out, and then told my bosses again, and so I missed work for like a week, and after that I was kind of like, I really need to just let go of this poetry, because now I just have fucking journals upon journals of poetry about this girl, and I was like, I'm just gonna let this shit go. So I started an Instagram because I had been working on a book. That was the other reason I had given her the poem. I was gonna ask her if she would edit it. I was like, here's a sample. And so I was like, I'll post the poetry on Instagram and like get followers, and that way when I put the book, or when I get the book finally to a point where I want to publish it, I'll have a place to say, oh, there's a book published, and maybe people will want to buy it, you know. But I hadn't intended people to make the connection between me and the poetry channel, because in that poetry channel I kind of talked about kind of the mental problems I would have. Like, I've always had paranoia for the people I love, like being working against me or having like plots to make my life more difficult. And that's kind of just like childhood shit that I have to figure out how to work through. And it still happens with my ex. Like, sometimes I'll go long stretches without talking to her. I'll be like, you're part of this whole fucking thing. Because honestly, my assumption is that the girlfriend of the girl that I worked with found the channel. And this is an assumption, so I'm not sure if it's true. And she knows plenty of people because she lives in this city and has lived in the city since she was a child. And not only that, she does hair, and so she can conversate with a lot of people. It's probably an interesting story. And then I don't know if she's part of the reason people started showing up, and like, it was weird. Like, at first they were directing all their attention towards me, and if I confronted somebody, they'd just ignore me. Or they'd be having conversations that I just had. They always knew when I was outside of my house, and people would start playing loudspeakers. Like, and this is where I was like, it's gotta be, well, I was like, it's gotta be the poetry, because this is almost exactly what I'm describing in terms of like paranoia and like with other people. And I just felt like it was like a big play on my insecurities, which I did not expect. But then again, you never really know you can't predict this psychopath, because this is just people that just want to fuck with me. You know, they don't have nothing better to do. But every time I left my house, somebody was fucking following me. So they knew when I was out, they knew when I was in here. And I was real paranoid that I was being watched in my house. One of the reasons I beat the TV, I started shoving foam in all my vents because I was worried somebody was listening to me through the AC. I thought there were cameras in my light bulbs, so I started taking all the light bulbs out of all the fixtures in my house. And I started closing all the windows, all the blinds. I didn't want anybody to see in. And like, I started getting paranoid. My mom's in on it, my friends are in on it, my ex is in on it. I have nobody to trust. And I started getting like real suicidal. Daily I fantasize about just like fucking ending it all, because I'm still trying to figure out why I'm doing anything. Why I'm doing anything. What is driving me? I have no idea. But yeah, nobody used to go to the park at the time I went to the park. And then I had these fucking guys just show up, and they would just fucking stare at me. And I didn't have a phone on me. I didn't take my phone to the park. And that's how I think they were listening to me, but I wasn't sure how they were tracking me. And one night, I'm sitting in front of that TV, it won't play YouTube. And then these people start talking to me through a fucking loudspeaker. And there's a bunch of people out, like, I don't know how far from the house, because I didn't venture out. It was like a bunch of honking and then people on loudspeakers. I'm not gonna fucking go out there. I'm not retarded. You think I'm gonna show up to a mob like, hey, what's up? What's good? You guys have been fucking trying to catch my attention in the weirdest fucking ways and making my life a living hell. Fucking driving around in a raised truck, blasting fucking music, playing loudspeakers. I started freaking out, like, maybe I've got a fucking microphone in my head. Maybe I've got a tracking device in my teeth. I'm like, I can't even go back to the dentist now. I'm like, fuck the dentist. I won't go back. And then the other day, I'm in my attic, and there's a fucking Corona bottle up there, and it looks like somebody'd been laying in my attic. I started writing down all these fucking license plates I'm just gonna say them now. Fuck it. 8CKB669 7H64522 5G49695 5EHZ919 6VMN644 8NET077 8ZYR346. That's a Honda. It's a white Civic. 9KJZ516. I'm like, fuck whoever the fuck these people are. I don't even know if it's really anybody, but I'm like, it didn't start happening until I was literally living alone, until my ex actually moved out and it was just me. So they knew that I was alone to target. And so I stopped doing all these videos. There was no way to do anything. I couldn't even be in a good mood. I thought it was a great way to take me out of my game. So that's why my assumption is the girlfriend, because she knows people. And I, for the longest, was thinking it was my ex too, because the way shit ended with us was so fucked up. But I don't really want to have that thought. Anyway, have you ever thought about how a composition roof is made of asphalt? And asphalt is what draws heat. I mean, it's used in parking lots. And that's what creates heat islands and changes environments. But we put that shit on our roof. I feel like I just interlude with this. Try to make light of all my fucked up situations. Because I don't really want it to be somebody else's problem. And that's why I don't usually call the cops. Because I'm like, the cops are usually for like legit emergencies, right? You know, I'm like, I'd rather them show up at somebody's door who's being beaten, or whose child is being abused. I'd rather them use their time on that than have to call and be like, you know, there's people out in the parking lot with speakers and there's people showing up in the fucking park, but they're not addressing me or doing anything. And the other fucking weird thing was, it was people presenting like they were therapists or something. But nobody would fucking speak to me. So, clearly not actual therapists. And how would you know? That's why I was like, it's gotta be the poetry. I talked about all kinds of stuff. Depression, suicidal thoughts. And it's like, if you really wanted to offer somebody help, you'd go up to them and offer them help. You wouldn't just like, at the time I go to the park, somebody parked a fucking, one of those therapy vans. They parked it at the park. Like, hey, look, a therapy van. You should get in it. You should call this number. We know where you're going. We know how you're feeling. You should call us. We're not going to talk to you, though. And so now, I don't fucking trust anybody. Anybody. Not in this city. Just fucked up. Because it was all like nameless, faceless people. People in cars. Cars following me around. Fucking. The best would be somebody would be talking about me in a fucking car, loud enough for me to hear. And if I started to go to the car, they would drive away. I'm like, at first I was like, is it all children? But then everybody that showed up at the park was an older dude. So, needless to say, I destroyed that fucking TV because it drove me insane. And I destroyed my camera for the same reason. I'm still building stuff. I'm not. I'm not really recording it. I'll get back to it. I have a camera again. I'm supposed to be doing this. Uh, taking old material and making it into something new. The other day, somebody left like three like outdoor chairs with the it was like the weaved backs and seats with plastic, and it was all fucked up. I mean, they break in the sun. So I just took all the plastic off and replaced it with like wood slats, like a bench. I turned one of the chairs into a bench. I was like, there should be 2 chairs and a bench instead of 3 chairs. You can fit more people on a bench. Then you can have sets of 4. I don't know. I like seating in even numbers, right? Even though right now I go everywhere alone. I thought, fuck, this is a great way to actually give somebody a mental illness, and then you completely isolate them, because that's the tendency anyways with like paranoia, is especially depression. Depression, I know for sure. I have. I was worried about the paranoia, but I think it's mostly with loved ones, and this shit was actually happening to me. It wasn't paranoid at all. But the depression makes me want to like not be around people at all. I don't want to do anything. Sometimes, most of the time. But yeah, that whole thing made me leave my job. I was like, I can't even be at my job. Because part of me thinks that people from my job were listening to me through my phone. I feel like that's how people were listening to me. I was like, how do they know about that shit? Like, people would mention some shit, and I just look at them like, I just laugh uncomfortably because I don't know what else to do, and look at them like, how the fuck do you know about that? Nobody would elaborate. I'm like, it can't be my videos. I'm like, you would tell me, right? If it was the video. These things aren't even popular. Is it the video? I don't know. What does it matter? That's what they'd say. You put it out there for people to find. Yeah. I got like real aggressive. Mostly because I was being surrounded in my own fucking home. And it's like, you're all alone, cornered. And now there's just people like playing loudspeakers through your house. Like, a lot of it was weird shit. There was applause, and then they had like, one day there were these people with stories of how they'd gotten handicapped. I'm like, okay. Oh, fuck. And really, I was just pretty fucked up because of all that poetry I was fucking writing. I was like, nothing is ever gonna happen with this girl. That's what I had kind of come to the conclusion of. I was like, she just likes when I look at her, and if I give her attention and feed and make cookies. But other than that, she could give 2 shits about me. So every day I'd just be real fucked up over the fact that I like somebody that would never give me the time of day. I mean, she would ignore me. So if I went up to speak to her for a while there, she'd just ignore me. And then people started paying attention, so she wouldn't ignore me anymore. I was like, damn, this is wild. I didn't think This is like I'd never really written poetry about somebody I was interested in the first place. It was a new thing for me. Oh, what a bad idea. What a fucking bad idea. She tortured me with music, though. That's why I was like, does she? Is she interested in me? This is kind of like, yeah, there's some deep music. Is this for me or for somebody else? Oh well. That's a bench. So that's what it looked like before. That was the brace. And I had to make these special bolts to hold the TV because it was like 180 fucking pounds. I had to move it with a longboard. But this is it as a bench. I think it's probably better as a bench. More enjoyable. The TV just drove me fucking crazy. And I made all the fasteners recessed so that nobody takes a bolt to the end.
Holy shit. Okay.
Yay. But that's a bench.
Oh, there's
A whoopsie bench.
Okay.
TV stand turned to bench. Stand to sit. And that's it. Bada boom. Bada boom. Bow.